After watching this video, you're going to have all of the terminology you need to be a sneakerhead. We've all had that time and place where we're talking about sneakers and somebody says a word about the shoe that you just have no clue what it is. I'm here to break it down for you and show you what each part of this shoe is, so the next time you're talking to a sneakerhead about the anatomy of a shoe, you will know exactly what they're talking about. I'm using the Brotherhoods because the color blocking contrasts really well. The colors break up the anatomy of the shoe, and it's going to be way easier for me to explain it to you guys that way. Let's make it easy at first. We've got the sole, which is everything you see in white and below. We're going to consider that the sole. And then we've got the upper. Anything above the sole is considered the upper of the shoe. Now each of those have multiple parts. The sole has multiple parts and the upper has multiple parts. A lot of people like to get super technical with the terminology. I'm going to keep it simple for you and use terms that most sneakerheads are using. This is going to cover the basics of the terminology. If you're hearing anything outside of these terms, you're probably talking to a nerd, not a sneakerhead. Let's break down the sole. The sole is super simple. You've got the upper half of the sole. That's called the midsole. The midsole is always going to be where the sole starts. So start with the upper, work your way down. The first part of the sole that you touch, that's the midsole. In the Brotherhoods, that's white. We have one more section that's called the outsole. On the Brotherhoods, that's the yellow part. The outsole is normally visible whenever the shoe is on a flat surface, so you can see the yellow poking through. It gives it a good accent, but that outsole is going to stretch across the entire base of the shoe. The only other piece of the sole that I would even classify as part of the sole would be the insole. That's the inside liner of the pair of the shoes. Yes, the insoles are removable. That is how a lot of places validate and authenticate their shoes. In the case of these Brotherhoods, the insole is yellow. I want to work our way up into the front of the shoe. One of the most common terms you're going to hear about the upper of a shoe, especially Jordan 1s, is the toe box. The toe box is going to be this whole section here, mostly yellow. You're going to have different terms for the purple and the yellow. I'm going to keep it simple for you. There's multiple different terms that people use for this, but just keep it simple. This is the toe box. The reason why the toe box is so important is because that's where most sneakerheads are going to refer to creasing coming from, and also a lot of colorways derive from the color on the toe box. For instance, we've seen the bread toes, we've seen the royal toes, and those all get their name from the color of the toe box. Pretty simple. Next, we've got these little holes that we see all throughout the purple here, and then a couple up here in the yellow. Those are called eyelets. A lot of different clothes have eyelets, not just shoes. It's pretty self-explanatory. That's where the laces go through. This whole purple piece actually has another name, but you're probably never going to hear about it in the sneaker world. One of the most often times you're going to hear about the eyelets are whenever sneakerheads are talking about how they freak the laces. Freaking the laces on a pair of shoes all comes down to how you lace them. When I say freak them, normally I'm talking about keeping them loose down here near the toe box and then just letting your lace tips hang out of one of the eyelets. That's a good way to loosen up your kicks, look a little bit more stylish, and it also makes them super easy to get on and off. Talking about the eyelets is going to bring us straight to the laces. If you wear shoes, I'm assuming you know what laces are. This pair comes with two different replacement laces. We've got yellow and white. Not all Air Jordans come with replacement laces. The Brotherhoods come with the purple locked and loaded. Of course, on the front we have the tongue. Specifically, the Air Jordan 1 OG High has the iconic Nike check. The tongue is super important on a lot of shoes, especially whenever it comes to stylizing them. Depending on the model, especially on Air Jordans, some of those you want to have the tongue pop. Then we go to the midsection of the shoe, which is normally referred to as the quarter. What you see in white here holds our Nike check. Call it the swoosh, the check, whatever. It's Nike. 9 times out of 10, a sneakerhead's going to be calling it a check. You follow the quarter all the way back to the heel. The heel is broken up into several components. You really just need to know the heel, and that's self-explanatory. And where the heel of your foot is the heel of the shoe. Designer nerds may break it down a little bit further than that. Respect to them. I'm just giving you the sneakerhead anatomy. The only other part that I feel is important to break up with the upper of the shoe is the color. The color is going to be this section closest to the inside of the shoe. In this case, it's the purple leather right above the yellow leather. And since we call this the color, we're going to call this the color lining, or just the liner. Whenever I talk to anybody about sneakers, I'm just calling this the liner. That's the inside comfy part of the shoe that you feel whenever you put them on. But the liner is important because it does show outside of the shoe whenever you have them on, or if they're just sitting stationary on a flat surface. A lot of Jordan 1s are going to have a black liner. This specific pair is actually color matched to the color. That pretty much wraps up the basic anatomy of a shoe. More specifically, the anatomy of an Air Jordan 1. You're gonna hear people throw other terms around, especially with different models and different colorways. You're gonna hear people talk more about some stitching, maybe different components that have more unique color blocking, but you should be able to get by with the terms that you learned today. If you wanna hear me break down some more shoes, drop that in the comments below. Hit me up on IG with more ideas about sneakerhead terminology and whatnot. The handle is the same, at AllABSneakers. As always, make sure you subscribe, turn those notifications on, and do not forget, this is all about sneakers.